Okay, now we're going to move in trigonometry to section 2 of chapter 1, which is the rectangular coordinate system. When you're in the rectangular coordinate system, all we're talking about is x and y axis. So if you have a vertical axis and a horizontal axis, and you subdivide them into, just say, 3 units in each direction, if you have a point up here, that point is over 1 and up 3 in this case. So the point is 1, 3. The horizontal is the x component, the vertical is the y component, and you have x and y. And that is rectangle coordinate system. Now, when you're dealing with a rectangular coordinate system, we need things like distance. And so we need a formula. The distance is the square root of x minus x squared plus y minus y squared. You can put subscripts in. I don't. And so you get x minus x squared. It doesn't matter what order you put them in. So suppose you take 1, 3 and negative 2, 4. The 1 and the negative 2 are the x components. The 3 and the 4 are the y components. So when you put them in the formula, you get square root of negative 2 minus 1 if you happen to pick in that particular order. If you're dealing with the negative 2, 1, just to be consistent, 4 minus 3. So it's negative 2 minus 1 squared, 4 minus 3 squared. So if you happen to pick that order, you get 3 squared, which is 9, 1 squared, which is 1, so you get the square root of 10 as our distance. Now the next thing we need to look at is angles. Up to this point we've dealt with angles on a triangle. Now we're looking at angles on a circle. If you start with a circle and you have 0 degrees, half of the circle, a straight angle all the way across, turns out to be 180 degrees. Now if you take that and cut it in half again, you get 90 degrees. And if you keep going around the circle, if you're at 0 and you keep going to 90, you're adding 90, 180. Add it again, you get 270. Now you can subdivide each of these in half. Half of 90 is 45. Halfway between 90 and 180 is 135. The next halfway point is 225. And the last halfway point is 315. Now, instead of dividing our 90 and 0 into halves, into 2 pieces, you can cut it into thirds. So we have a third and a third and a third. Now when you do that, you will get 30 for the first third, 60 and 90, because those are all 30 degrees apart. And you need to keep going. 90 plus 30 makes 120. Add 30, 150, add 30, gives you 180. Add 30, gives you 210, and you can just keep going. Add 30 more is 240. 40 and 30 is 270. 70 and 30 is 300. And 300 plus 30 is 330. So they're the angles going around a circle. And you'll need to memorize those. Now we have what's on a circle called coterminal, and that just means it ends at the same place. You're going to add or subtract 360 to get back to the same place. For instance, if you take 0, add 360 degrees to it, you're back to the same place. Or if you go backwards, you're back to the same place. So 0 is the same as positive 360, negative 360. Now you can take 30, and if you start at 0, if we start at 0 and we go around, there's our 30, and you keep going, that's 360, and you add 30 more. That's 360 plus 30, which is 390. Or you can start at 0 and go backwards. And when you go backwards, you can end at the same place by subtracting 360, and you get negative 330. So it's 390 or negative 330. You can do the same thing with 330 degrees. You can keep going, or you can go backwards. I'm sorry, 45 is the next one I did. 45, add 360 is 405, subtract is negative 315. Then I went down. If I go backwards, that's negative 30 because it's how big it is. Or if you take 330 and keep going, 360, keep adding, 330 and 360 makes 690. And then 315, add 360 or subtract 360. Subtracting is negative 45, adding is 675. 300, adding is 660, subtracting is negative 60. So you're going to add and subtract 360 degrees to get coterminal, which means it ends at the same place. Okay, suppose you have 42 degrees. If we want a positive angle, we're going to add 360. If we want a negative angle, we're going to subtract 360 multiple times if we need to. And then there's a formula you can to generate everything, and that is take 360 and put a k next to it. That just means 360 times any integer you want, once around, twice around, negative, going backwards, whatever it is. So if you have your 42 degrees and you add 360, it makes 402. If you subtract 360, it gives you negative 318. And if you take 42 and add your 360k to get the formula, it'll look like 42 plus 360k. And again, the k is an integer, 1 or 2 or 3 times around, negative 1, negative 2, number of times around a circle. Okay, negative 127, if you add 360 to get a positive number, you should get 233, and if you subtract 360, you should get a negative 487. And again, if for the formula, you take your angle and add 360k to it, and that gives you negative 127 plus 360k. So we have coterminal angles, we have angles on a circle, and then we have the distance formula, and that is section 1.2.